Hi, my name is Brianna Johnson, and this is Fleeting. I'm sure you'll hear this intro several more times throughout the entirety of the podcast, but this is where we'll start. Fleeting is a podcast that explores an individual's experiences over time with their personal definitions of romance and sexuality, and how they've come to situate themselves between adolescence and early adulthood. As of right now, the podcast is looking at college students from the University of Michigan and the surrounding areas. I don't want this podcast to be raunchy. Not to say that sex can't be raunchy. This is not going to be an all-out kink fest in which my guests describe every dirty little detail with every bleeped out name and electronically deepened voices. This will not be a tell-all. But you will get to see the reflections of people who have had experiences like yours, or maybe nothing like yours, and how they've come to position themselves between all the love and sex and what they've gained and what they've lost from high school until now. In high school, I don't think I ever knew what love could really be like. I grew up thinking that people couldn't love me because of the color of my skin, because of the texture of my hair, or for the way my butt looked so good in jeans. All right, that's a little cringy. Other girls didn't look like me, and not to say that I'm better than any other girl for looking like the way I do, but it's kind of discouraging when everyone finds a date to prom or homecoming, and you're still waiting for someone to tell you, hey, I like you. As a black girl in an all-white school, I really thought that my race was the one thing keeping me from getting a boyfriend. That might not be true because I might have been kind of an asshole in high school, but I was also really scared to tell anyone that I liked them. Because it's scary. It's scary to tell someone how you feel, when you're feeling it. And I'm sure there was a lot of people in high school that liked me. And I'm sure all the people that I like will never know that I like them. Sometimes there's no reason to go back and tell people those things. And of course, going into college, I had a series of messy relationships, but through those, I learned how to know what I like in a relationship, how I want to be treated, how I don't want to be treated, and how much the little things matter. But this podcast is about knowing that that is okay, and getting your first kiss your freshman year of college is perfectly fine, and that falling in love with someone that is no good for you. Sometimes it takes the experiences all throughout high school and way into college to find the person that you love the most and find out what love really means to you, for you, in that moment. And the discussions in this podcast are going to teach you that it's a learning curve and that sex can be scary sometimes. But sex can be really natural. And there's no reason to feel shamed for liking porn, or for liking girls when you're a girl, or for feeling like you don't need to have that conversation about your gender just because you want to date somebody. So in this podcast, we'll talk about virginity, pornography, fan fiction, how objects of intimacy that may be bodily or otherwise help us realize what pleasure and connection really means for all of us in those intimate relationships. And I also hope to define how institutional pressures, whether they be religious, social, academic, or otherwise, help us shape how sex, love, and our ideas of being young play into one another. I hope to help people define themselves and their experiences with sexuality and love in a world obsessed with heightened sexuality and love and overly romantic relationships and the loss of innocence. Originally, I thought of this podcast as a resource for teenagers who didn't have this. I didn't have this when I was younger. I didn't know that it was okay to feel these things sometimes. And even though my friends told me they were okay, I wasn't quite sure if I would still be feeling the way I'm feeling about relationships, which wasn't good. And I wanted to hear about people's experiences over time, not just in that moment. And that's where Fleeting started. But as I started doing the podcast, I found that a lot of these things reach way further than the questions I had in high school and the questions I still have today. This isn't just for the lonely teen who doesn't know if she's gonna get her first kiss by her freshman year of college. This is for the lonely 20-year-old. It's for the kids who are still having questions about their sexualities, their gender identities, their love languages, the way they want to be treated, how their religion plays into a relationship, if porn is still not okay at the age of 23. We're going to talk about all of that, and hopefully you feel a bit better on the other side. This isn't meant to be a judgment on anyone's lifestyle or how anyone interacts in a romantic or sexual relationship. This is meant to show perspective. This is meant to normalize certain relationships. This is meant to confirm that some things are okay and some things are not okay. So stay a while and hear the stories of my friends and the people I've come to love and their experiences with love and sex between high school and college.
This is Fleeting.